Manager at League of Innovators and host of the mental health podcast, Life's a Wreck.
All right, you good to go? All right. Oh, thank you so much. All right. Heave away, eh? That was fun. That was cool. I was saying, this is some of the best energy I've seen from like an entrepreneurship group in a minute. And I think that anytime you're gonna do any kind of public speaking, there's always a little bit of nerves, you kind of feel in your gut a little bit. And whenever you come into a space and you hear people chanting behind the doors, and then they come in and then they're bouncing around and everything like that, it's like, oh, okay, I'm good. All right, we're just hanging out. I'm incredibly lucky to be here, and I'm also an incredibly, you guys won't know this about me, but I'm an incredibly lucky individual in general. And that's not because I have won the lottery, which is a bummer. Much to my immense disappointment growing up, I was not discovered playing basketball in my driveway by the Raptors. It was kind of always a dream. But I am lucky because I am one of the least successful entrepreneurs in this entire room, and yet I am up here. I'm also really lucky because, like so many people in this room, I've had the immense pleasure of working with young innovators through my work with the League of Innovators. And there is a particular energy, as we have just discussed, surrounding young innovators, and I'm very fortunate to be a part of it. And I'm also lucky because back about 5-ish years ago, so I'll tell you a little story about my entrepreneurial journey, I started a company that was a clothing brand and a marketing agency that I spun out from my podcast that I launched back in 2019 called Life's a Wreck. It was a mental health clothing brand and marketing agency, and from the outside looking in, bit of a flop. Did not work. To get it going, I spent about $6,000 to get it going, which I know that some people in this room are going after hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they're like, $6,000, it was hard for me. It hurt. So spent $6,000 to get it off the ground. We made back about $4,000. If you are doing the math in your seat, I was $2,000 in the red. Not where you want to be. But you know what I will say about that project though, is it did some good. In the short time that we had, we raised about $1,000 for mental health initiatives across the country, which was awesome. We also donated about $2,000 worth of clothes to our neighbors right here in Halifax who needed the most. So that was amazing. So you know what, our economics were bad, but impact, which hopefully is something that all of you can appreciate, did a little bit of good, which was really, really cool. Thank you very much, I appreciate it. That's what it's all about. And like I mentioned, that venture gave me the opportunity to connect with the League of Innovators. So about, give or take about 2 years after that business closed its doors, so about 3 years ago now at this point, I got a call, and this is again, we're gonna go back to that luck component. I got a call from one of the team members at the League of Innovators who said, hey Kyle, I just wanted to give you a ring and just let you know that there's a job opening at LOI that I think you'd be good for. I think you should throw your hat in the ring, see if that's something that you'd be interested in. Sure enough, that call was from somebody who graduated from the same high school as me in a town of about 4,000 people in St. Stephen, New Brunswick. So pretty lucky guy. Gave me the opportunity to start working with the League of Innovators on their labs program, which is a product market fit program. And over the last couple of years, like I said, I've had the opportunity to work with young innovators, and there is something about working with young innovators and being around this energy that gives you the opportunity to see what world-class development looks like. And not just world-class development in terms of world-class entrepreneurs, but world-class development in terms of world-class people. And I think that I'm seeing some people nodding around the room, and I know that particularly for the people who are working to help you all achieve these entrepreneurial visions, that they recognize what I'm talking about. And so after being around this energy for a couple years, I had the opportunity to get asked to be part of this incredible event. And I thought, you know what? These young people are going to be doing a lot of work to get to this point. You guys are going to have a lot on your mind, so I want to keep this really simple. And I just want to share 3 rules with you that I've learned when it comes to world-class development for not only entrepreneurship, but also just for life. And so rule number 1 is find your rhythm. So often when we think about greatness, we think about grand finale moments. We think about those crescendos, those apex moments. We think about Connor McDavid in the Four Nations tournament scoring that overtime winner against the States. I wish I could have said that about the Olympics. So close. We think about Muhammad Ali's first round knockout of Sonny Liston that led to one of the most iconic sports photos of all time, standing over him like that. We think about iconic lines in movies. We think about Darth Vader, I am your father. Right? Remember those moments? And we remember those moments that the people in this room will one day, potentially, hopefully after impacting a lot of people and doing a lot of good, find their way onto one of those fancy blank under blank lists. Right? 30 under 30, 40 under 40, 92 under 92. There's a bunch of them. Right? So we think about these moments, but that's the thing, and I'm burying the lead a little bit because they're just moments. They're just moments. They're a snap of the fingers and they're gone. They're not here anymore. They're already in the past. And that's not to say that they're not impactful, right? Connor McDavid scores that goal, thousands of young Canadians start playing hockey. That's awesome. Muhammad Ali's impact led to key developments in civil rights and equality. Amazing. Right? George Lucas inspired a whole generation of filmmakers, and hopefully you all have the opportunity to inspire and impact millions of people, not only in this country, but across the world. Like, that's huge. But that's the thing, is those are moments. So what leads to those moments is rhythm. Connor McDavid doesn't score that goal if hundreds of passes don't happen in that game. Right? Muhammad Ali, it was a first round knockout. It was only 14 punches, but it was still 14 punches that Muhammad Ali threw before that iconic sports photo. All of that incredible change that was created. It's an hour and 51 minutes of dialogue before "I am your father," which is just great. Empire is awesome. And it's the millions of decisions that all of you make every single day before you find yourselves on one of those fancy lists, right? So it's, greatness exists in our rhythms, okay? That constant step towards those grand finale apex moments. Great entrepreneurs, great leaders, and great people establish clear and consistent rhythms. Something doesn't work out, that is just a note in the song, keep playing. The patent for your venture gets denied, that is a chapter in the book, keep writing. Right? Show up, show up, show up. Try, fail, learn, try, fail, learn, try, fail, learn. Celebrate. Try, fail, learn, try, fail, learn. Keeping it going. Great people don't rely on great moments, and they certainly don't rely on luck to get there. They establish consistent rhythms of effort and action. Okay? Find your rhythm. The cool thing is about this event is that this event is actually about rhythm. Because here's the thing, everybody in this room wants you guys to crush it. Everybody here is cheering for you guys. High tides raise all boats, right? We're on the East Coast. One of my favorite sayings. I love it. The thing is that there's also people in here who are judging this competition. So somebody's going to come first, somebody's going to come third, somebody's going to come last. Right? But no matter where you find yourself in this spectrum, it is up to you to establish where in your rhythm this weekend fits into. Okay? Find your rhythm. Rule number 2, start with curiosity. Now, if you guys will humor me, this is an exercise I like to do with the founders that I work with, which is great, and I think we could all use it after a long day. We're going to take a couple of deep breaths together, okay? So, if you guys can all entertain me, here we go. In through the nose. Hold at the top. Out through the mouth. Again, in through the nose. Hold at the top. Out through the mouth. One more time. In through the nose. Hold at the top. Out through the mouth. Now that we've given ourselves a second to breathe into this space, if you feel so comfortable, I encourage you to close your eyes. I encourage you to close your eyes, lean back. If you don't feel comfortable closing your eyes, I totally get it, but direct the attention in towards yourself. And now I want you to continue to stay with an even breath. Remember, find our rhythm. In through the nose, out through the mouth. And as we find ourselves in this more relaxed state, I want you guys to think about back to your childhood. And I want you to think back, if those memories are a place that feels safe to explore, I encourage you to think back to your childhood, to a moment of pure curiosity. So for you, that might be walking through the woods and flipping over stones and wondering what's underneath. For some of you, that might be going down in your grandparents' basement, looking through old treasures or flipping through old photo albums. Some of you, it might be plugging in your Xbox you got for Christmas, booting a game up for the first time, exploring that. For me, it's the old I Spy books that my grandmother used to have on her table in her living room. Every page you'd be flipping through and you had to find a bowling pin or a panda or a watch. These really incredible tapestries. And every page, I didn't judge what was going to be on the next page. Just flipped that page and started to explore it. But I want you to sit with that feeling for a sec. Continuing to breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth. But think about that feeling. Really sit with it. We got nowhere else to be. Really sit with that feeling for a sec. Sit with that state of being. And if you feel comfortable, I encourage you to come back to the space, open your eyes back up, adjust to those bright lights, Give yourself a moment. Curiosity is home base. For the world's best, they start with curiosity. That state that you just explored there, that you just went back to, and it's a state that for many of you is probably pretty familiar. I think young innovators are pretty good about finding their curiosity, which I think is really great. But the thing is, if you want to grow your business, start from there. You want to deepen your sense of self, start from there. You want to make creative decisions that will change the world, it's a good place to start. Whether you're starting a whole process or just starting a step in the process, start from that place. Now, curiosity shows up in some really interesting ways, and there's two ways that are a particular advantage. Number one, it separates you from the herd. As you guys transition, and trust me, it happens, and I know it's not great, but at some point, people are going to stop calling you young entrepreneurs, and they're just going to call you entrepreneurs. So at some point, as you're continuing to make your way forward and everybody is building and building and building alongside you, you're going to find that you're going to have a line of peers who are also vying for the same funding and attention and resources. And the thing is that curiosity keeps you in movement, keeps you moving forward. The second that all of a sudden you start to say, well, that thing is that thing, and I know that that thing is that thing because I have 27 years of life experience. That thing is that thing. All of a sudden, I am planting myself in the identity that that thing is that thing and it's not going to change, right? This mindset becomes rigid. It slows you down. And so as curiosity, as you stay in that state of curiosity, it allows you to keep moving forward. That thing is that thing, but it might also be this other thing. This person doesn't want to fund my venture, but I wonder what kind of ventures they do fund. I wonder if I can make an introduction for them. It gives you the opportunity to keep moving forward, and that's great. The other thing is that in a dynamic world, as dynamic as creating national and international change, you yourself have to be dynamic. And curiosity gives you the opportunity to live in a flexible and dynamic state. We always say, roll with the punches, right? I guarantee you, okay, quick show of hands, who here has run into an issue with building their business at some point? There's been a problem that you've had to overcome. Okay, there are a lot of people, right? So we always say roll with the punches, find that next solution. And if we think about, okay, well, why do we say roll with the punches? Well, let's think about another dynamic environment. Let's go back to Muhammad Ali in the boxing ring. If you go into a boxing ring, a dynamic environment, and you plant your feet, and you don't do anything else, you're gonna take a lot of punches, and eventually you're gonna end up on your butt. Right? But if you stay dynamic within your environment, if you are dynamic in a dynamic environment, you move, you flow, you stay limber, you stay loose. When you're at the front of the pack, when you are the bird at the front of the V, you are the one who has to split the headwinds. You are going to face things that other people aren't going to face. Right? They're going to have the opportunity to learn from you, and that's a great advantage for them. But you have to stay dynamic to stay at the front. So the world's best understand the fact that a dynamic environment requires a dynamic state. Curiosity allows you to do that. Okay? So if you tap into that state, regardless of where you're starting, I promise you it will dramatically improve and impact where you end. Okay? Rule number 3, if you want to change the world, which I know a lot of people in this room do, you have to change your world first. When I say this, I do not mean that you have to call up your friends and say, dude, I'm going into grind mode. You won't hear from me until you see me on the cover of Forbes. It's not what I'm talking about. I don't need you to, hole yourself up in a room with no windows with a bucket of coffee. By the way, I saw a few people around here. I don't know. Seems like that kind of conversation may have been had at some point. I don't need you to wear the same sweatsuit every day in a windowless room with a bucket of coffee and your laptop. I don't need you to do that. I think the best way that I can describe what I'm trying to communicate with this rule is by telling you about my neighbor, Jerry. Now, Jerry was my neighbor growing up in this small town, St. Stephen, New Brunswick. And Jerry was like the quintessential East Coast neighbor. He would have loved you guys bouncing around to heave away. That would have been the highlight of Jerry's week. And I say this because Jerry, every time I'd be outside mowing our front lawn throughout high school, Jerry was a high school teacher and apparently pretty good baseball player back in the day. Jerry would come over and he'd stop me and he'd say, hey kid, how's school going? How are things? I'd say, good, Jerry, yeah, things are good. It was always funny too because I was about this height in high school and Jerry was like maybe 5'1", 5'2". So he was, kind of just come over and we'd have a good chat. And I got such fond memories of these conversations with Jerry. And I remember as I was growing up and I got accepted to go to school. I got accepted to go to TMU, it was Ryerson at the time. But a couple days before I left, Jerry came over like clockwork. I was outside mowing the lawn. Here comes Jerry. And Jerry goes, how are you feeling about school? I said, I'm feeling good. Yeah, I'm excited. Big city. It's going to be a new opportunity for me. I'm excited about this. And Jerry goes, oh, that's great. I'm happy for you. That's going to be really cool. And I say, yeah, well, Jerry, I really appreciate it. I stuck out my hand. And Jerry reached kind of behind himself and he shook my hand. And as I pulled my hand away, I felt a little crinkle in my hand. I looked down, brown note, crisp $100 bill. I was like, Jerry, I was just already I was thinking I was beer money first week, I'm gonna be ready to rock. And Jerry got really serious and he looked at me and he said, kid, listen, there is gonna be a time when you were at school, nothing's gonna be going your way. You're gonna be trying and trying and trying, and you will not be able to buy a win. You're gonna have some really, really, really hard days. And when you don't know how you're gonna keep going, I want you to take that money. I don't want you to use it for books. I don't want you to use it for groceries. I want you to go get yourself a hot meal, and I want you to do something fun. I said, okay, Jerry, I got you. And I folded up the bill and I put it in my wallet. A couple years go by. I'm at school. Maybe this is an experience you've all had. I was dead broke. I was struggling with some classes. Things weren't going my way. My mental health was in a really bad place. And as I was talking about rhythm a little bit earlier, I was starting to get to the point where my mental health was so bad, I was even starting to think about, well, is my rhythm done? Is my book done? I didn't know how I was going to keep going. And one day I was out getting coffee, and as I was at rock bottom, and I was at the lowest point of my life, I went, paid for coffee, and as I put my card back in my wallet, I saw the little corner of a folded up brown note sticking out of the back of where my ID was. I remember the conversation I had with Jerry, and I kind of forgot, to be honest, I forgot about that money. That day, just when I didn't know how I was going to keep going, I went and got myself a hot meal, and I went go-karting with my friends. It's a fun day. I had a moment of happiness in a time when I needed it so bad, and it gave me an opportunity to develop a new rhythm, establish something different, and keep moving forward. Jerry gave me resilience infrastructure without me even realizing it. He fundamentally gave me rules. He gave my life structure in such a way that would allow me to continue to move forward. So many people in this room are focused on solving some of the world's biggest problems. That is not a small feat. That's huge. To focus your energy and your time and your expertise on accomplishing your goals, you have to find those small ways that you change your life, that you fundamentally put infrastructure in place to make sure that you can focus on the things that matter most. Sometimes it's small things, sometimes it is big things. Sometimes we have nasty habits that we need to kick. Sometimes we're in a space that an environment that's not safe for us, and we have to change that. But we have to evaluate what are the big ways and the small ways that I can fundamentally change my life so that I can change others. Okay? So that's rule number 3. Those are the 3 rules. I do, though, want to share something with you that I think is really important, which is that if I've learned anything, and one of the truest joys of my life in working this job, and again, I know people in this room are going to know what I'm talking about, one of the coolest things is seeing young people become builders. That's one of the coolest things for me. I love it. I know the Enactus team loves it. Watching young people become builders, that's the coolest thing. Because a builder knows that sometimes it's going to be really tough to keep going, but you know what? I'm just going to put one more board on the wall, I'm just going to keep going, one more nail. I might have to carry some weight sometimes, but you know what? I'm building something that is bigger than myself. Being a builder is I think it's one of the best things that a human being can be. But the thing is, it's not just about building great businesses and amazing ventures. I never want you guys to stop being builders. You are all going to everybody's going to go in different directions, right? We are all going to have these incredible lives. I hope for all of you that you have an incredible life. You write a damn good story. I hope that throughout all of it, from now up until when you're that 97 under 97 list, way up there, I hope that you never stop being a builder. Build healthy, loving relationships. Build wonderful homes. Build safe and welcoming communities where people are respected. Build. No matter what you do, never stop being a builder. Okay? So rule number 1, find your rhythm. Rule number 2, start with curiosity. Rule number 3, you want to change the world, change yours first, and never stop building. Thanks, guys. Good luck tomorrow. Of course, of course.